Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
Imagine a land teeming with life, where vast herds of bison thundered across the Great Plains, where ancient cities thrived with intricate networks of trade, and where civilizations had flourished long before the arrival of European ships on distant shores. Before Columbus set sail in 1492, before the conquistadors carved their way through the Americas, and before the myths of the untamed wilderness took root, there existed a world so rich, so complex, and so deeply interconnected that it challenges the very narratives that history books have long perpetuated. This is the story of America before colonization, a land that was not an empty expanse waiting to be discovered, but rather a continent filled with cultures, languages, traditions, and scientific advancements that rivaled those of the so-called Old World. From the towering pyramids of Cahokia to the engineering marvels of the Inca, from the linguistic diversity of the Algonquian and Iroquois peoples to the philosophical and spiritual traditions of the Hopi and the Navajo, America in 1491 was anything but primitive. It was a world where societies governed through democracy, where vast networks of trade stretched from the Andes to the Arctic, and where knowledge of astronomy, medicine, and agriculture flourished in ways that would later astonish European observers. Yet, so much of this past has been buried beneath layers of colonial mythmaking. The history of pre-Columbian America is often reduced to a footnote, overshadowed by the narratives of conquest and settlement. But what if we could peel back time and witness the continent as it was, a land of thriving cities, sophisticated governance, and profound spiritual depth? What if we could step into the world before 1491 and truly understand the depth of its legacy? This journey into pre-Columbian America is not simply an academic exercise. It is an unveiling of truths long obscured. It is an exploration of how civilizations rose and fell, how landscapes were shaped by human ingenuity, and how an intricate web of societies developed over thousands of years. To understand America before colonization is to recognize the resilience, brilliance, and undeniable humanity of those who called this land home. Long before Europeans set foot in the Americas, the land was already home to millions. But how did the first humans arrive in this vast and varied continent? The most widely accepted theories suggest that early humans migrated from Asia via the Bering Land Bridge, a now submerged strip of land that connected Siberia to Alaska during the last ice age. These early settlers, known as Paleo-Indians, gradually moved southward, spreading into different regions, adapting to diverse climates, and developing distinct cultures. However, recent archaeological discoveries have challenged the traditional narrative. Sites such as Monte Verde in Chile suggest human presence in the Americas as early as 18,500 years ago, far earlier than previously thought. Other findings, including ancient tools found in Texas and mastodon butchery sites in Florida, have led some researchers to propose alternative migration routes, including coastal journeys by boat. These revelations continue to reshape our understanding of how and when America was first inhabited. The first Americans were not merely wandering bands of hunters. They built societies, shaped the environment, and developed technological innovations that allowed them to thrive. From the Clovis culture, which left behind distinctive stone spear points, to maritime cultures of the Pacific Northwest, early Americans displayed remarkable adaptability. Their knowledge of the land, their ability to cultivate and domesticate plants, and their complex social structures laid the foundation for the great civilizations that would later emerge. By the time of European contact, the Americas were home to a vast array of civilizations, each with unique systems of governance, religious practices, and technological advancements. In South America, the Inca Empire ruled over an extensive network of roads, terraced farms, and engineering marvels, stretching from present-day Ecuador to Chile. Their mastery of agriculture allowed them to sustain vast populations, while their intricate record-keeping system, known as quipu, enabled them to manage an empire without a written language. In Mesoamerica, the Aztec and Maya civilizations had developed sophisticated cities with towering pyramids, vast marketplaces, and advanced astronomical knowledge. The Aztecs, centered in Tenochtitlan, modern-day Mexico City, built a metropolis that rivaled any European city of the time. Their intricate system of aqueducts, floating gardens, and grand temples testified to their engineering prowess. The Maya, meanwhile, left behind an intellectual legacy of mathematical innovations, an elaborate calendar system, and written hieroglyphics that chronicle their history and mythology. North America, too, was home to remarkable civilizations. The Mississippian culture, which flourished between 800 CE and 1600 CE, constructed massive earthen mounds, the most famous being Cahokia in present-day Illinois. At its peak, Cahokia was a sprawling urban center with a population rivaling that of London. The city boasted complex political structures, a well-developed trade network, and monumental architecture that demonstrated a highly organized society. Beyond these well-known civilizations, countless other societies thrived across the continent. The Pueblo peoples of the Southwest built elaborate cliff dwellings and intricate irrigation systems to sustain agriculture in arid environments. The Haudenosaunee, Iroquois Confederacy, developed one of the most sophisticated democratic systems in the world, inspiring elements of the U.S. Constitution centuries later. The cultures of the Pacific Northwest, rich in art and oral tradition, sustained themselves through the bountiful resources of the land and sea, crafting totem poles and engaging in complex social rituals. Far from being passive inhabitants, the indigenous peoples of the Americas actively shaped their environment. European colonizers would later describe the land as untouched wilderness, but in reality, it was a landscape sculpted by centuries of careful management. Controlled burns maintained the grasslands, ensuring a steady supply of game. Vast irrigation systems transformed arid lands into fertile farmlands. Forests were cultivated to promote the growth of useful plants, and complex trade routes facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies across vast distances. Maize, the staple crop of many indigenous societies, was a human-engineered marvel. Developed over thousands of years through selective breeding, maize became the foundation of numerous civilizations, supporting dense populations and complex societies. Alongside maize, crops like beans, squash, potatoes, and cacao formed the backbone of agricultural systems that sustained millions. Yet, the management of the land was not merely a matter of survival. It was deeply intertwined with spiritual beliefs. Many indigenous cultures viewed themselves as stewards of the earth, maintaining a sacred balance with nature. This philosophy was reflected in ceremonies, oral traditions, and governance systems that prioritized sustainability and reciprocity. The idea of land as a communal resource, rather than private property, would later clash with European notions of ownership and exploitation. America before 1491 was a world of extraordinary complexity, innovation, and resilience. It was a land of cities and civilizations, of thriving economies and profound spiritual traditions. The indigenous peoples who inhabited this land were not mere footnotes in history, but architects of societies that, in many ways, rivaled those of Europe, Africa, and Asia. Understanding this history is not only an act of recognition, but also a step toward reshaping how we view the past. The pre-Columbian world was not an empty wilderness, but a vibrant, dynamic tapestry of human achievement. The story of America before colonization is, at its core, a story of ingenuity, endurance, and an enduring legacy that continues to shape the present.